That.
No problem.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Statements from the public. Has anybody got anything arisen?
Unless there's somebody present, I think there's one guest. Unless they've got something they want to say, now's the opportunity. Otherwise, no. There's no statements from public.
Okay, we'll move on to point 3. Statements from county councillors. We've got County Councillor Karen Edwards with us this evening. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Right. There's a fair bit I've got to say. I'll start with the update on the Riverside Park scheme improvements, which were funded through the Brilliant Basics. The contractors have started yesterday on the mini golf element, with the green infrastructure and the tree planting taking place. The contract for extending and creating play equipment for 5 to 12-year-olds has been awarded and will quickly move forward. They're awaiting landscape quotes. I believe Councillor Keddy might have an update regarding electricity to the bandstand. I don't know whether he wants to jump in at this point or whether he wants to leave it until next month's meeting. It's fine either way.
Like I said, there hasn't been an update. What we're hoping to do is amalgamate the funds allocated to the electricity supply into the main scheme of things, so it can be distributed and used best possible way.
Okay, thank you. Right, moving on, waste and recycling. Denbighshire County Council are still in discussion with Wrexham County Borough Council. And I have to say it's good news because good progress is being made. And I'm talking about a service level agreement to access Plasmodic. I should have a further update in the next month or so. So believe me, trust me, I'll bring it to the meeting. But it is good news, and it looks as if we are definitely moving forward with this. Signage, KM Construction are visiting the car parks this week to remove the free after 3 p.m. signs, and they will be removing the bent sign and poles on the entrance to Market Street car park, as per my request, really. And also they will be removing the old tariff boards from Hall Street car park. I am actually going to arrange a meeting with one of the officers to see if they can pop down and we can actually discuss the whole signage issue in Llangollen, because I keep getting information through from residents that there's far too many. So I think it's about time really that we revisited all that and see what can actually be removed. The Castle Street scheme is the 2020 scheme, as you know, started. Phase 4 is under construction. I kind of inherited the scheme, so I personally haven't had any input because obviously this was decided before I became a county councillor. So we'll just see how it goes, really. The drainage issue on Castle Street outside Fusies was seemingly due to a build-up of detritus and material within the channels. This will be regularly monitored and further maintenance carried out accordingly, albeit on an increased basis, should this be deemed necessary. So at the moment it's fixed, but we don't know how long it's going to last before the drains block up again. So we'll wait and see on that. As for the issue with the bollard, as we all know, the 5th bollard ended up partway up Grapes Hill, stuck on the back of some vehicle. They were going to replace that because they were going to pour concrete in the middle of it, because they couldn't, apparently they couldn't attach it as well as what they wanted to, because the depth of the road by there, because the railway bridge is underneath, wasn't sufficient enough. But I think that they may well have shelved that idea for now, and they're in the process of setting up a meeting with traffic colleagues to discuss what options they're going to take moving forward. There's also an issue, as we all were aware when we had the bad weather, of the treacherous pavements. And I believe that Denbighshire County Council are going to address that, because whatever was brushed or sprayed onto the pavement, specifically on the bridge, was causing an issue. And they recognise that, they've acknowledged it. So what they're going to do and how they're going to remove it, I have no idea, but I'll keep you posted. I've also received an email from a resident, actually, this is a town council issue, who's queried the lack of a replacement notice board on the main street and pointed out that not everyone uses social media for information regarding events in the town. So I'll pass that information on to the clerk, and maybe you want to deal with that, because I think the initial sign was on the curtilage of the town council property. 4 great highways. Well, as we know, the consultation process has commenced. Councillor Keddy and I had an initial meeting with the design contractors and Denbighshire officers on the 11th of January. We were assured that nothing was set in stone at this stage, and that was evident as there was no clear definitive potential designs for us to view. We know as much as you do. There are plans to consult more widely, for example, posters, face-to-face engagements. Whether that will be sufficient at this stage to garner public and resident support remains to be seen, considering that this project needs to be delivered by March 24, and we know how long it takes to get things put in place. So it's a fine timeline, really, and it's really important that we try and get everybody to engage as much as possible. So if you've got any ideas as town councillors as to how best to improve, and I think that there does need improvement on engagement, then please let me know. That's pretty much it from where I am at the moment. I'm open to any questions anybody has.
Yeah, Scott.
Yeah, that thing about the engagements, I might as well say it now because it's become common knowledge. I had a press after me today, so I've been talking to some lady reporter today about what this lack of engagement, should we call it. I think that considering the amount of money they're going to spend, I don't see any reason why they can't put some sort of leaflet through everyone's door. And that way everyone will at least know about it, and they can give all the contact details and people can submit that way. And there's just that way they can't get out of saying, well, we haven't told anyone, and everyone will have been told, and it's up to them to engage then, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Have you actually suggested that to them, Scott, or?
I have actually mentioned it briefly, but it's going in an official letter, so an official email tonight. Like I've been compiling a rather big email, as mine tends to be. And that.
Sorry, I'm having a bit.
That will be. Sorry, Karen.
I'm just having a bit of difficulty hearing you. Please.
Can everyone else hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must be me then.
I think if you could talk a little bit louder, councillor, might help.
I'll go right on. Yeah. I'm sending them an email tonight, outlining some points and queries I've got, and I will be stressing that it's in view of what's happened previously. They've got no reason not to do it. And in view of the amount of money they might want to spend, it's a small amount of money to at least let everyone know. As I say, once everyone knows, it's up to them to engage. Then if you don't engage, that's their problem. But both sides are on an equal footing then,
Yeah. Thank you very much, Scott. Just a quick query. What's the whole idea between the removal of the signage? Are we going for a free parking scheme, Miss Edwards, or what seems to be the reason behind removing all the signage? Oh,
I wish, and I'm sure everybody that visits this town would wish that as well. No, I think that the sign in the free parking signs do come down anyway. They're only put up on a temporary basis, obviously, to cover the festive period. With regards to the other sign, if you actually, the one with in the entrance to Market Street car park, the poles are horrendously bent. And the whole thing is being removed, because I think that they're probably going to be putting new boards up at some stage or other, but they definitely just need to remove the old ones, and I'm not sure whether they're entirely happy with the position of that anyway. And the tariff board on Hall Street will be removed, so I would imagine that at some stage newer ones will be going up with different information. I'll keep you posted.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Is there any more questions? No. Brilliant. Right. Okay. What we'll move on
Thank you.
to now. Thank you very much. We'll move on to point 4. Apologies for absence.
Yes, Chair. We've got obviously still at the moment standing apology from Councillor Rush. Councillor Gittings, I think it's because we've gone electronic, has slight problems with his PC, so appreciate that. Councillor Keddy is not apologising, but as you know, it's not very well, so he's just observing and he's taking as much part as he can, but it's not technically apologies. If you're happy with those.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. Point 5, declaration of interest. Has anyone got any declarations of interest on any of the agenda this evening?
Nope.
No. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. On to point 6 minutes regarding the 15th of November and the 20th of December 2022.
You have technically you have approved the 15th of November, but when I was posting them, I noticed the number sequence had got out of kilter. Obviously, I changed the number, but had incorporated some of the numbers from the previous set of minutes. So this is just to reaffirm that you've had the minutes and they're now correctly numbered, so the sequential numbering is correct. That's all it is, Chairman. And then obviously, if you can then authorise the 20th December, which I slightly sent an amendment out. Councillor Haddy corrected me quite correctly. It was up to £400 we were going to pay to the Cyngor Christmas lunch, community lunch, pending receipt of an invoice from them, which was actually 400. So that's just a correction there prior to the meeting. So I say that was sent earlier.
I did drop you an email. I don't know if you picked that up at all. I happened to notice when we looked at the minutes for the 20th of December, they were actually dated for the 15th of November.
I changed those, sorry, as well.
Yeah, no problem. That's brilliant. Yeah, Councillor Marshall.
Can I just check when we approved that for up to 400? Was it because they said the total cost would be 400?
No, the total cost may be more than 400.
Oh, right.
They've invoiced for the amount. They've sent a short report, and I think it's all. Perhaps I should. I'll circulate it after. There's some 50 odd people attended. There were 12 meals delivered to the community as well. So it's quite an amazing number, actually. So you know.
Yeah, a report would be good because I'm aware that collections were made in other avenues to support that lunch. So I'd be interested to know what they raised and what they spent, kind of thing, and what they've charged to us.
Will do. I'll ask for that extra information, Councillor Marshall.
Thank you all very much. Are you all happy with that? Yeah.
That's proposed as a due record.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Councillor Haddy. Anyone second it? Yeah, Councillor Marshall. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, on to point 7, financial reports.
The first are the payments. Not that many this month. I apologise, the formatting went a bit array on the PDF version. And we are still awaiting the salary. I don't know why it gets later and later coming from the payroll company. But obviously it's a contractual arrangement, but I just apologise that we still haven't had it this month. I'm not quite sure why. I hope they have sorted it out. I don't think there's many shocks, as it were. The Grenker leasing is the insurance, annual insurance for our photocopier and the copier leasing, which are direct debits as well. But unless members have any specific questions. The window cleaning, just a point of interest, it transpires that the bus shelters that were on our asset list are not actually our bus shelters, and anyway have been replaced by the county. So I checked this with the previous clerk, who was somewhat shocked that they were on the asset register. But we're still retaining Mr. Williams' services because he does, as you can see, he does the cleaning of the First World War Memorial. So he's got the ladders and etc. to keep that tidy. So that's not just, that's all the windows in the town hall, plus regularly cleaning the memorial on Centenary Square, just for information. If you're happy with that, the bank reconciliation is there. As we're not in person, I am going to go through it again from Morris before the meeting, but we can make sure that we get together to just confirm that it is correct, although it does balance out. And finally, our net position, we did go through it last month. If you recall, not giving it too many confidence is away, but there's still some uncertainty as to whether the 20 clubs performance will take place in the spring. So again, we will unfortunately be showing perhaps a little loss on income. The facilities officer is doing her best to try and get other things in over the next few months to try and boost. We're even looking at working with Arts Council Wales to bring in touring companies to try and bump up some of the income. But as I said, the position is very similar to we were just before Christmas. So we just got to be careful going forward. Things like our repair and maintenance are getting very close to the amounts we've got. Therefore, we will have to start looking at either reserves or, as I said, that fund that we had for projects, which is fortunately a bit of a fallback for us this year. Apart from that, just one item, picking up what Councillor Edwards said. I remind you that we had allocated £4,000 from our community grant scheme, which is still there, to the Parks project. I have reminded them of this, and I'll have to remind them again, because obviously if they don't take it this year, it won't be there next year. Again, perhaps Councillor Edwards and Councillor Kelly might want to jog some memories. They are owing me an invoice, so they can get that paid. Apart from that, that is really the financial position if members are happy to approve and second.
You're muted, Councillor Morris.
I apologise. Is there any questions on that? No. Is anyone happy to propose that through?
I'll do that.
Yeah. Seconder. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
The next.
Because I
Sorry.
sit on the. Sorry, I was trying to press the button to raise my hand in time. I sit on the Parks project as well, so I'll happily speak across to them and take one from Colin's list to do. So I'll speak across to Jeff and he gets that invoice across to you ASAP.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Sample.
The final part of the finances are the standard report. Of those of you that were here last year will probably remember it, but it's that time of year when we formally appoint our internal auditors. It's all subject to the practitioner's guide. We don't necessarily have to have a qualified auditor. You can ask anybody to do it. There's a competent person under the regulations, but we have traditionally employed the services of JDH Business Services Limited, based outside Mould, and that has allowed us to have the continuity of the audit process. Each year they prepare the report and then they follow up to ensure that we've done any of the recommendations within the internal report that they produce. Therefore, we're quite happy with their services, and they continue to provide very cost effective, and now an online facility which has smoothed up things a lot. There's no more driving to Pontyclun to hand over the accounts and lose them for a week while they look through them. So the recommendation is on the basis of the comprehensive information we provided in the past and that continuity of service that we continue to appoint JH Business Services Limited our internal auditors for this financial year ending on March. Oh, sorry, it should be 23, that should, sorry. Forgotten that.
I'd like to propose that we continue with our existing internal auditors.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
You're still muted, Councillor Morris.
Sorry, just I keep forgetting to switch it back on. Just out of interest, what's their fee?
It's about £400 to £500 a year. Depends on how much complexity there is. I must say since we've gone on to the Scribe system, it's a lot easier because they can have login access to our online accounts, so they can. So it's I think the most in any 1 year was 600, but then they had to assist with quite a lot of the issues we had with the old Excel system. So its average is about 400, I'd say 450 a year, and then external audit charges. But we haven't had. We haven't still had another audit for the last 2 years from external audit. They're about double that amount for probably about the same as yeah.
Okay. That's already been proposed and seconded.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. To second point. Appointment of representative on outside bodies.
Yes, Chair. If you recall, we've sort of kicked this can down the drive a couple of meetings now, and because there were very few last meeting, it was decided to have another go at this meeting to see if anybody would like to come forward. The Glyn Tryan. I've lost my place now. I've skipped too far through the.
Page 9.
Glyn Tryan Relief in Need charity. As I said, we have got still 2 previous councillors sitting on that, so it's not critical. And that's not that they're not devoid of charitable trustees, but traditionally we have appointed a person to sit on that. Well, at least one, and I think we are entitled to up to 3. And I don't know if anybody is now interested. Obviously, they meet, I think, about quarterly to disperse the money. But as I've said, as there are representatives on there, we can always just say that this year we are not putting forward any trustees if there are no people interested.
Do we have any willing volunteers? Obviously, appreciate everyone's very, very busy as well. So I think nobody's forthcoming. I think it would be only fair to them as well, just to make them aware that obviously everybody's quite busy and that unfortunately we can't offer our service at this time.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. The Denbighshire Destination Management Partnership, Councillor Ryan, with her work commitments, London, Llangollen, found it difficult to commit to this. Councillor Marshall was sort of suggested she may be interested last meeting. Have you had some more thoughts on that, Councillor Marshall?
Yeah, I just I don't think we clarified last meeting what the commitment was.
It's a quarterly meeting. My problem was that the meetings happen in the day and they happen in Ruthin. So
And they don't have any virtual
they
access.
didn't. I'm not sure if that's going to change, but they didn't.
If I were to contact them and say if there's an option for virtual attendance, would you be willing to put your name forward, Claire?
Yeah, I'd be happy to if we can attend virtually. I'd have to rethink if you have to go there
Yeah.
every time.
That's okay. I'll
He
check.
seems very keen to accommodate requests, but you know, the fact that it happened in the day just was impossible. So
Okay, so I'll do that request to see if that's capable. And the one that I forgot from the last meeting was the dementia aware Llangollen are still looking for a representative. Is there anybody who'd like to sit on that group?
do you know how often they meet?
It's a fairly new group, so I think they're meeting quite regularly, and then COVID intercepted it, so it's back again. I mean, in the absence of a member, I would be happy to sit on that if you felt we should have representation on it and report back. At least whilst it's being set up, if they feel that would be appropriate, I'd be willing to do that.
That might be useful.
And then we can gauge the level of need going forward.
Exactly.
If members are happy with that,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you all very for your nominations and your actions. Do we need to propose that?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Can I have a proposal for that? Councillor Fair and a seconder, please. Yeah, Councillor Marshall. Brilliant. Thank you very much. On to the next point. I think it's the finance and governance toolkit.
Yes, if you remember, we've looked at this now. This is second or third meeting. We originally looked at the toolkit and agreed to take part in it. We looked at the first section last month and agreed a division of the work up over the next few months to give you time to absorb what's required. And so tonight we're going to just go through the first sections. I don't know if you want, perhaps it's best if I share now the screen so that we can get my mouse to work.
Gareth, I'm struggling slightly to hear you. I don't know whether you can.
Yeah, that's my. Rather very much reminds me of Chief Executive of the Wales Tourist Board. They had a member of staff there that used to go and fade down in this conversation, and every so often they used to nudge him with a stick. So if you do that, I fully appreciate it. But I do tend to quieten down sometimes. So it's this element of the self-assessment. I've split it to cover the two areas we're looking at tonight. So the first thing is to reflect on these, and then at the end I will make notes of the commentary from the members. And so you see, you have to reflect on, first of all, our vision, purpose, and community planning. And I won't go too fast because I know I made people a bit ill last time. We just go through this, and then as a commentary, we make a decision as to how we think we fare in respect to this element, and then any actions. So I'll note the commentary, the actions, and then that will be added to this section going forward. So the first area is, does the council have a plan for realising its vision and purpose? To which you will remember we've just adopted a business plan. So clearly that is in place, and that business plan itself was then based on the work of the community and the community plan. So I personally would say yes, we have a plan for realising a vision and its purpose, and that is grounded in what was said to us by the community. Obviously, if members have a different view, then please comment now.
Well, if I could just
I think you said that. I think it's it's quite clear. Does the council have a plan for realising its vision and purpose? And I think, for me, myself, we are serving our purpose, and we're representing the townspeople of Llangollen. I would like to think anyway. So I do think, yes, we do have a clear vision plan for the community, and our purpose behind us is to serve them.
Okay.
Councillor Marshall's got a hand up.
Sorry, Councillor Marshall. I am so it's a little bit of a small screen.
Yeah, sorry, and I've just lost my screen somehow, so I'm obviously still in the call, but can't see anything now. I just going back a step almost, but when it says about how to do the self-assessment, it says that councillors review it independently, and then they meet as a working group to compare and discuss their. So are we treating tonight's meeting as the working group, because it doesn't seem to allow, I suppose, much time to sort of get into detail. It details those 4 steps, and then it says 3, record the actions to take, and then do a summary of the findings to discuss and agree at full council. So we're doing this in a slightly different way to the way they recommend.
Well, you know, I mean, we can do that. But, you know, we're doing it as a whole council. So if you did meet it, it wouldn't necessarily be any. I mean, quite clearly, if you want to have a separate task and finish group, just to, you know, we can reconvene that and do it that way. It's just that obviously that will be every member of the council again, because this is the whole council assessment. The first bit was sort of to be done slightly differently. I mean, it's entirely up to you how you want to take it forward. I haven't got a problem if you want to go to that approach of doing it outside a formal council meeting, and then we report all the actions. That it's the same end, as it were. By in a couple of weeks, couple of months' time, we would have completed the toolkit. If you prefer to do it that way, then I'm happy for that to take place. So it's entirely up to you how you want to take it forward, really.
I suppose my concern is just having time to do it justice when they give all the examples of the documented, you know, policies and visions and whatever and stuff like that. It takes some time to dig those out, or to be presented them by the clerk so we can consider all of those. If people just want to do a quick process, I'm fine with that. I just, for me personally, I feel we could do it in more depth, but perhaps people don't want to.
Would it be worth deferring it slightly, or putting a proposal forward that we defer it to allow council members to maybe reevaluate what they want to do, maybe put it down in an email or a formal document, and then pass that on to the clerk?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's not statutory. It's, you know, we can do it as we see fit. I mean, if you want to do it in chunks like that, and obviously contact me direct if you want to clarify what documentation we've got. I'm quite happy to send, you know, either electronic versions out or meet in the office. And then if we re-look at it, that we'll just work through these modules over the next few months as sort of a shadow council, and then bring them all back together for a general discussion. That's fine. If that's.
I guess, or there's a possibility to do it the other way round, which is to stick to the schedule. And if we come across an area where somebody has concerns, so if we're all fine on vision, purpose, and community planning, and we all feel confident, then we could move on. But if we hit an area where people are like, I'm not so sure about this, then maybe that's one that we go in depth a bit more. So almost use our time to do a first pass, if you like. And then if people feel like a second pass on that might be necessary.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea. If we go through tonight, and if as we sort of scan read, if people say, right, I'd like some more information on this, then yes, that's fine. So as I said, I mean, if we look at the questions again, and then what they're saying is the evidence. We obviously have a documented vision, purpose and value statements. All those were part of the plan, the people's plan that was produced by the town team. And so we have a lot of background information behind our plan, and quite a massive document. The community planning tools, well, we used the set shape and town tools to do it. We public consultation events and surveys. Again, we used a variety of public consultation methods. We've traditionally held, prior to the pandemic, community cafes, face-to-face events in the town hall. We've done traditional surveys. We do surveys for the plan production, held one-off events, and of course had to, by hook or by crook, move to online as well. So we did a lot of interaction online. And we've learned from that using the items such as the Chichester webinars. We do press releases and articles. We don't produce perhaps as frequently the newsletter, because that became a Chichester project, which we need to discuss as a Chichester group, because the way it was being related to input onto the Chichester website was then downloaded to create a newsletter hasn't quite worked. So that's something perhaps we do need to look at, and bearing in mind the comment earlier about not everybody being on social media and looking at sort of, electronic means of communication. That's perhaps something, again, we need to look at. Statutory reports. Obviously, we have traditionally produced an annual report presented to the annual meeting. We have a statutory obligation to do that now and going forward, so it's nothing new to us. So we have got that plan in place, and we'll continue to produce those plans, and we have done them under the themes of the local of the Future Generations Act. So we're compliant with the local wellbeing plan in respect to that, although our budget level means that we don't necessarily have to do it or take due account of the wellbeing plan because we're below the threshold. We have a biodiversity plan, and we've been doing the reports. As you know, we approved our biodiversity section 6 report last month, which has been sent to the Welsh Government. And as it says, the annual report is required by local government Election Wales Act. So if there's anything there, if we look above at what we're supposed to be looking at, how does the council plan to take account of its statutory obligation and functions? Well, obviously, I'm not sure what they're trying to say there, but we do, to the best of our ability, always bring forward things that require formal consultation, and we are compliant in terms of operating within our standing orders and financial regulations. Keeping the plan under regular review, that's something we've got to ensure we do, and I think it was agreed that we might look at a half-yearly and then yearly review of the business plan, and at that time possibly other plans as well. It may be useful as well to convene the town team now and again that help draw up the community plan, so that they can have an overview to see that it's been implemented, because it's not just the town council, there are other players in that have to do things to make the vision come to reality. In terms of planning, I think we are quite strong in how we reflect our views in terms of maintaining our quality environment, our status within an ANOB. We have made comments in terms of biodiversity and also social economic issues, such as the recent decision with the cafeterias, whether there are too many in the town. So I think, again, we probably cover that quite well. So if there are any members that would like to just sort of any further details on that before we move on, and we can summarize that going forward.
Yeah, so obviously, just returning back to what we said as part of an on the agenda, obviously I was just to recommend the town council completes themes A and B. Would we have an amendment to that to almost have like a first view and then a proofread afterwards, as Councillor Marshall suggested?
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing feast, isn't it? So, I mean, obviously, I will make notes, and what I was expected to do at the next meeting, when we look at the next two, we will have a summary of what was said from this meeting, because that will be added to the plan. Don't want to take too much time with it, and then at the very end, you will notice at the end of the document there is a summary of all actions need to be taken. So by the end of the process, we will have gone through everything individually, and there might be specific areas where we feel we need more information, and that will form part of the plan going forward. So
should we be making an amendment to that then?
Not necessarily, because it's a process, and at the very end you've got that. If we go back to the where are we?
It's obviously an ongoing thing, so each meeting this is going to recur each meeting, isn't it? That's what I was thinking.
There'll be the different, yeah, obviously we split it up into the themes. I mean, if you prefer, we could do an away day as it was, and spend an afternoon and go through the whole document collectively, if that's preferred, if people aren't happy with this format. He was just trying to make it a bit more manageable, a Swiss cheese sort of system. But if you'd rather, as you say, amend it that we just have a day session or a half day session in the chamber and just go through this and thrash it out once and for all, and then report those findings to a meeting, preferably by the end of March. And then, as the document says, we then feed that all into our new annual plan, which we can then publish in May. So we will have gone through the process of telling, in essence, saying we have a council that I don't want to brag too much, but I think we do things quite effectively and quite well, and that we have got the systems in place. But it's really just an endorsement of that, and then taking that forward and identifying if there are any shortfalls somewhere, how we're going to address those. So as I say, if
I see him, Councillor Marshall, have you got your hand up? I think you're still
unmuting. Yeah, I thought we'd said we'll sort of press on with a first pass and then see if we felt more depth was needed, and then that might shrink the time we need to spend outside, if you like, on specific, because we might just come down to one or two areas that we actually want to spend a bit more time on. I was only going to say I'm reasonably comfortable on this section,
right?
Apart from it says, how are you involving the whole community? And coming fresh from the diversity and local government conference this morning, because I am that sad person who had nothing better to do today, that rang some bells to me in terms of like, yeah, the whole community, because obviously we run consultations, and some of the issues that Scott mentioned before about are we reaching the whole community with our communications, that kind of thing. That would be my main flag in that area. I think just the difficulty is when you look at the evidence that they suggest looking at, it's quite hard for every individual councillor to go and find all those bits. Do you know what I mean? You have to go back and find our plan, which is called Love Llangollen or People's Plan. It's got a couple of different names, and like when I did a search on our website for vision, just nothing comes up on town council. So if you're trying to find the evidence, you probably have so much of it in your head, Gareth, that actually, and many of us are new councillors, that trying to go and find it and go, oh yes, we've got that, and it matches that, and it matches that. That's the difficult part of the process that I think if I was, oh, I don't know, if I was asked to swear in a court of law, have you seen all the evidence? I couldn't say, yes, I've seen all the evidence. But on this section, I'm reasonably comfortable. I think it was the next section I was less comfortable.
Okay. I mean, there is an action there really that we need to clearly identify where on our website. So it may be a
Oh, sorry, the only thing I'm picking up on is the fact that we've got a decision to make here. As our agenda says, we've got a report for a decision. So do we? It's kind of a bit of a grey area, really. Are we proposing that we continue as we are, or do we make an amendment that we have a proof of, first viewing and then a proof reading later on?
Yeah, I think we can take that as as where we are. We are skim reading, should we say, and then we can pick up those elements where we want more information, and then we can set time for that. And then ultimately, when we get to the final theme, which is evaluating impact, that's when we will bring everything together and how we're going to take it forward, and that will be when we resolve that we've done the process really. As I say, it's not a statutory function, but it's a useful thing for us, and particularly with new members, just to get a grasp of what we're taking on board. So I think that's fine. I don't think you actually have to. The decision is to go through this in the way that we think is appropriate. So I think the decision was made, and I don't think you need to necessarily. At the end, we would just resolve that. Those two sections are now gone through, except possibly more information on whatever. So when we get to it, I think that would fulfill the requirement of the agenda item.
Okay.
So
we got any further questions on it? Okay, so I'm looking for a proposal really to obviously, as we can see there, propose that we continue on with our finance and governance toolkit as described this evening, and maybe later meet later on with that and collate our ideas.
I think that's what Councillor Marshall has really put forward. Somebody else can second that.
Yeah.
Councillor Fell. So that covers that, yeah. So not to prolong it, if we just quickly go through, the next section is leadership of people. So again, the questions to consider in this area are: do all councillors understand their obligations to ensure effective governance of the council? How to ensure all members are trained in all aspects of their role? How do you ensure all members are suitably resourced to carry out their role? And how do members and staff engage with recognised sector representative bodies to share and learn from good practice? And the examples of the evidence: vision, purpose and value statements, declaration of acceptance of office, standing orders, code of conduct, arrange for discharge of functions, records of attendance of council meetings, and evidence of councillor training needs analysis and training undertaken. Well, as it says, just skipped over this, obviously top bit of evidence really relates back to our business plan and some of the training we did on the role of councillors in the induction and the subsequent training on the standing orders and scheme of delegation, etc. You all signed a declaration of acceptance of office, or you won't be able to sit around tonight and debate. We have modelled standing orders in place, albeit that we know they need to be amended to reflect changes in certain aspects, such as online meetings need to be included. There's details there about referring to the OJ, Official Journal of the European Union. Well, we're not in the European Union anymore, so there are changes that need to take place there, but they are still satisfactory for the operation of the council as they stand. code of conduct. We've gone through code of conduct training, or about to go through code of conduct training. You've all signed up to that. Arrangements for discharging the functions. Well, after sort of a bit of a bumpy ride, we've gone through the scheme of delegation and what that means in terms of how we operate and respective roles of councillors and staff, etc. Clearly, we have records of attendance at council meetings because they're recording the minutes every time we meet. And the evidence of council training needs and this and training undertaken is an area where I think it's only Councillor Marsh that's replied so far about under the training needs. So that's something we need to take forward, because we, as you can see at the bottom, have a training plan, which is now been approved pre-Christmas. Well, November actually, for the due date where we had to have a training plan. So it's really the area there I feel possibly they're lacking is if members could return the training needs that we sent out, so that then we could start planning a programme of training through One Voice Wales and getting members signed up. So it's the commentary there. If members, again, if anybody has any questions, further information on that. But I think, you know, as I said, this is a process of a self-analysis, really. So, and we are pretty good, and I always have been as a council, of doing things correctly. So at the moment on these sections, I don't think we're too far off the mark. But training, I think, is critical, and getting the what training you would like to take on board is pretty vital. We get lists of training every month from One Voice Wales, but you know, obviously it'd be better if we could, or I could advise you what training is available to suit the needs of the members based on your assessment that is done for the training plan. If anybody else has any comments there.
I pretty much agree with Gareth's analysis on that. The one thing I flagged up was the training. I felt like we weren't quite up to speed on that. I mean, you've got a lot of new councillors, so that's part of the picture, isn't it? But that was the one area that I picked up on as well.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, we can go back to just circulating what we have from One Voice Wales, and members just pick what they'd like to go on. But, you know, I think it should really be based on the assessment that you've done, which has been suggested by Welsh Government and One Voice Wales, which we sent out as part of the training plan, and then we can really, you know, and the other thing, if it's 2 or 3 want to do it, or say all of you want to do a similar, we can then get a bespoke course put on, rather than you have to just wait. So, or we could look for other courses if it's not covered by the elements there. So I think that's the only thing there to push forward on the training, if that's in that section. Are you still seeing the shared screen here? It says it's stopped sharing. The next section on this is employment duties. Do all councillors understand their responsibilities as an employer? Well, touching on the last section, I think all members of the HR committee should really attend the respective training session on the council as an employer. So that's something we could put in place immediately. That's a course that they should go on. Clearly, we do have a human resource and committee dealing with staff matters. We've had that established a while now. All staff, well, both of us do understand their obligation under the National Employee Code of Conduct. We've read it. We understand our position in neutrality and having to respect people equally. So, yeah, we're fully aware of that. We have got, sorry, this is the first one. Does council review whether staff are remunerated appropriately? We have in the past done a sort of job evaluation. That may be something that needs to be looked at again. The jobs are changing quite regularly. The roles are changing significantly. The advent of this new technology and way things are going forward. I'm not saying that we're not remunerated appropriately, but it might be useful to benchmark against other councils. So that could be an exercise that needs to be taken. Does the council ensure open and fair competition for all vacancies? Well, yes, we have a policy on that, and we ensure that we advertise them as widely as we can, and obviously interviews are taken are done in terms of no discrimination on any of the factors that are mentioned. What arrangements are placed to enable employees to communicate with their line management for appraisals? Well, we have an appraisal process in. Obviously, I do the appraisal of the facilities manager, and then the HR chair does my appraisal, which we've already started the ball rolling for this year. We just need to get together to go through the documentation that I prepared. And what processes are in place to resolve both internal disputes, grievances, and potential external complaints? So we have a grievance policy, and we have a complaints policies in place. So and the evidence, looking at current employment law, when anything changes, we're notified collectively as a sector, and then we will bring forward, or I will bring forward, that legislative changes to either the HR committee or full council to take notice of that. We have signed contracts in place, and we have policies on employment. We have a HR handbook, and that is all fully aligned with National Pay and Conditions Agreement for clerks, because as you're well aware, you looked at the annual pay award based on that the other day. We have a pay policy, which is part of the employee handbook there. We both have job descriptions. There was a time when we didn't. It was just the clerk had one, but we rectified that. The appraisal scheme is in place, and they are reported. Mine particularly is reported to HR committee that it's been completed. So we have, again, documentary evidence of that. Minutes of full council and HR committee meetings. Well, yes, a full set of minutes. Financial records record appropriate deduction from gross pay calculations. Well, that's been, as I say, farmed out to a payroll agency, so we make sure that that is done correctly, and clearly we have that evidence on file, which is subject to the annual audit by an internal and external audit if they need to be. So all the payments are made against payroll and conditions. And as I said, there is a grievance and complaints procedure in place. So again, I think we're pretty good on that. I said the only one area possibly we will need to look at is getting the HR committee on the training courses provided by One Voice Wales. So again, if anybody has comments there. Okay. Conscious of the time, because there is another item we need to address. This is about resources. Does the council encourage continuous pressure around his employees? Well, yes, because you're very supportive of training sessions that I'm required to go on to maintain my CPD, and I've never had a problem in being allowed to do training. And yes, again, it's not just been specific to my role, but obviously the facilities officer, we've done bespoke training on certain aspects that are relevant. Again, you've not been scrimpy, shall I say, and you have all provided necessary equipment for the office and for home working now. That very much came about during the pandemic, but there's never been a problem. You've always been very responsive to maintaining up-to-date equipment. So that is, I would say, more than adequately covered. Health and safe welfare of council employees. Well, I think tonight is a case in point. I'm very much grateful that you allowed this to be remote. Otherwise, I would have struggled a bit to make the attendance today. So again, you know, I think it's proof in the meeting tonight have been able to show that you have necessary processes and systems in place, and you do respect our health and safety. And I think you have throughout, as the pandemic yet again showed that the willingness to support the staff to return gradually back to the full office opening and the changes that were made. So the evidence, training policy plan, well, we've got that. Training budget, yes, we've got an adequate, if not massive, training budget. Dignity at work policy, unless we got that in place, reasons. Member officer working protocol, well, we have got that. That's one of our policies, it's on the website. Equality and diversity policy, well, we have an equality policy which covers both of those areas. We do regular risk assessments as well as the sort of financial risk assessment as presented annually. Some of that will contain elements such as need to address issues of adequate staffing levels and things like that. And also we did do regular risk assessments in terms of office, display screen equipment, and all those kind of things are regularly in place. Investment in line management training for clerks who manage the council staff. Obviously the training I go on does support general management techniques, but you know, you have to bear in mind this could be Barry Council with 20 or 30 employees. We're not in that category, so I think the resources we have at the moment are more than adequate to be able to train for me to manage a part-time member of staff. We've not looked at investors of people, and that's something perhaps we could look at going forward. But again, I say we're not of perhaps a scale and magnitude that necessarily would make that any significant improvement to how we operate. So again, I think that is the last of the section. So again, unless you have any comments, I think we're fairly well covered on that last aspect as well. I think Councillor Morris may have frozen. So unless members are, I mean, what I have picked up therefore is, as I say, which we could add as a decision to move forward. We will add in the actions. Certainly, and it's touched on in the earlier section as well, there's communication plan. We're going to look at a communication plan, and that would hopefully then pull out some of the areas about being able to communicate with the whole community. Picking up on Councillor Marshall's comments about finding things, but I think a bit more clarity on the website. May have to do some changes to show where these are, and then some of the training for HR&R members of staff. And then Councillor Marshall, sorry, somebody's trying to ring me off, so to leave that. You're muted, Councillor Marshall, if you want to.
Is that okay? The middle section of that, I'm really not confident on, in terms of, I don't, and it's probably because I'm not familiar with the HR committee, but it asks whether the full council are confident in the processes, if you like, and I'm not, possibly simply because I'm not familiar with them, but I don't understand how the HR committee manage and appraise staff. I'm not clear how concerns should be resolved. I would like to see job descriptions and when they were agreed and by what committee. I'd like to see evidence of appraisals. I don't know who's the day-to-day manager of the town council staff. I don't know if the current line manager is trained in appraisals. and so that kind of scheme and side of things is not something that I understand. And this self-assessment is asking councillors, do we understand those? And I definitely don't. So if we were going to do anything in more depth, for me, it would just be that middle section. I can put that in an email to you, and it might be just sending me stuff and I'll go, oh yeah, I get it now, you know.
Yeah, well, as I say, our standing orders requires the head of Human Resources to undertake an annual appraisal of myself. We have a detailed appraisal form which I can send out to you to see what has to be completed. I've contacted Councillor Ryan as a current HR chair, and we're due to get together to start that appraisal. I then do the appraisal of Charlie, facilities officer. No, I haven't had appraisal training through Llangollen, but I did in my previous life as a Powys County Council line manager. So it's the same process, the same form that Charlie will complete. So I can send you that. Line management is always a bit of a tricky one with the clerk, because the clerk is not responsible for the council as a whole. But most of the day-to-day line management in terms of staff, of leave and all those aspects, requests are sent via Councillor Ryan, and they're all then reported to Human Resources Committee to show when the staff were off, when what.
I suppose the bit we don't see, and you don't need to answer all of these now, but the bits that we don't see is that doesn't always feed up to town council, does it? In terms of like a summary report of.
Well, you will get the minutes of HR. So when you accept the minutes of HR, you will have had a copy of what in there. So it will say the appraisal has been undertaken.
Oh, I've not seen any since I've been in post. So.
We've had very few HR committees, so they've not come up. No.
Okay. So yeah, I wasn't expecting you to answer all that now, but.
But I can certainly send you. I'll certainly send you the job descriptions and the data when they were there. I can do that. I can circulate it all. There's no problem with that to all members. And again, a copy of the appraisal process. And I should know, but if they're not, I'm pretty well sure all the HR policies are on the website under the HR handbook. So yes, that and that's, so I'll make sure that is circulated. That's another action from this section, so that everybody is familiar with what goes on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. Sorry, I completely dropped out. So I lost the internet.
Yeah, that's fine. So as I say, that those summaries will be added now to the actions on those sections, and I'll circulate that, and then next month we'll go through this again, another quick run through. So if there's any, as Councillor, I think it's been very useful, as Councillor Marshall says, to glide over, and then in those areas we have concerns, we'll highlight those, and at the end then hopefully we can put it all together. That's been brilliant. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, we'll move on to point 9, planning applications. Lakedi, I don't know if he's about, is he?
Well, we've had none this month, so we've got none to.
I'm here yet, but there are no applications or no new applications to look at this at the moment.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. So we've got no further information. We've got certificates of decision. We've had 2 there which have approved. Brugwennon Rugby Football Club and Rianba Abbey Road have been approved. So well done to those. Moving on to point 12, correspondence. I don't think we've got any correspondence, have we?
We have now got an item of correspondence, which is an email from the team of the 4 Great Highways. Following the session we were invited to on, was it Tuesday? I can't remember. We had to make it clear, and Councillor Haddy did as well, that obviously they'd invited councillors to that presentation, but it wasn't a presentation to the town council, so it was difficult for councillors. Well, if they did make a comment, it was a personal comment. That's what we had to point out to them. So I advised that if they were to write to me to formally ask for any comments, then we would present it as correspondence tonight to give you as members an opportunity to pick up on the presentation that was given and to feed in any direct comments you want to send to the team at the County Council on what has been proposed. I did send out those basic images, so you have the sort of cut divided in certain areas, wasn't it? There was the area around the wharf, and there was a bit of discussion about the adequacy of the access and who used it, and whether they think what it was difficult really, because they didn't really have anything to present to us, which I must say I thought they would have given us some indication of what was going to be happening. But you know, it's that area. It's the area then down towards the Ponsonby, which is and the parkland at the end of the car park, and that bit. Then there was the more general thing about signage around the community as well. So it's really your opportunity to, if there's things that you feel from local knowledge. I mean, a comment was made to me, it's all very much putting nice play equipment down at the Ponsonby, but the area floods. So, you know, if you're putting, I can't remember what to call it now, like chipping surface, soft play surface, then, you know, that could be washed away. So there are simple practicalities that perhaps the consultants aren't aware of and could be made aware of. So it's really your local knowledge and your views of what you think we should feed in, if anything, to the process, Chair.
Okay, brilliant. I see Scott's got his hand up first. I imagine he's got quite a bit to say on this, so brace yourself, please.
Hopefully not a great amount. I just want to point out that the presentation that was done on, I think it was Wednesday night. I was in the meeting for about 10 minutes, and then as soon as they started talking about the plans and whatever, my connection was lost, and I got back in again and lasted 2 minutes, and then I got back again, lasted about 3 seconds, and I saw virtually none of the meeting. And then the following night, which was a public one, exactly the same procedure happened again at exactly the same time in the meeting. As soon as they started doing the presentation about the wharf and whatever, I was gone, and then I got back in and I was sat there waiting in the room for the whole meeting. I screenshotted all that business. So the 2 nights that these presentations took place, I was basically saw none of it. I just thought I'd point that out now. And that's part of the large email that will be getting sent to them this evening, funny enough. So I'll just sort of mention that now. So as for input, I wasn't able to make any input whatsoever at that meeting, or even see really what they were up to. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Councillor Suzanthan has a hand up, Chair. And you're muted, Councillor.
So a quick question really. So if we were to submit some thoughts and feelings and ideas around the project, when should we get them to? When's the deadline, the due date to get them?
Well, obviously it doesn't preclude you commenting as individuals. You can always do that. It's just whether if we're going to do a collective response, it'll be from tonight's meeting. So if there's any specific you think as a council we should be commenting on. I mean, we have commented in the past, and we did comment on the plans, which we did. I mean, there are more detailed plans that were produced at the very beginning of this process by Cadwyn Clwyd, and that was like the viewing platform, which is now being taken out of the scheme in front of the alongside the bridge. that's now been withdrawn. I think A, on cost, and B, on practicality. And then, you know, they're talking about more improvements in the Ponsonby Park. So, you know, we have seen a bit more detail in the past, and we have commented that we were generally in favour of that. So, but, you know, it's again very difficult. I appreciate it's very difficult if you haven't actually got anything physical to comment on. But it really, from tonight, if we could feedback from tonight to them, that'd be good.
So if they're asking us to comment as a whole, a collective as the council,
Yeah.
Is there a time period where we can get together and discuss some of these elements? Because I think different councillors may have different insight, like you said, local knowledge about different elements of the project. Others will ring true with, you know, individuals. Is there an opportunity for us to get together and discuss this, or are you implying that we should be doing that now?
Well, they've asked for comments tonight to feed in because they're doing this initial crawl to, and I think Councillor Hardy wants to speak, but if I just quickly say, I think it's very much more about conceptual at the moment. Is it something that we're happy to proceed with? And I said we've already commented, already agreed that we're happy with the process. And it's just therefore if it's something collectively that we really feel as a council there are elements that just aren't acceptable. I think personal opinions and helping the consultants with practical items such as, you know, certain areas flood. I don't think that's necessary at this stage, but perhaps Councillor Haddy, who was there for the whole meeting, could come in now.
Yeah, Councillor Haddy, that's, yeah, I could see you got your hand up for quite a while.
Not to worry. Fortunately, I didn't suffer the same internet dropout problems that Councillor Felton did, because I didn't have any problem with their connection. What I did have a problem was the lack of information that Denbighshire were able to communicate to us, because there weren't. It was a general update which we'd already received back in the autumn of last year, where we had a presentation from outside bodies to the council as a whole. I think it was in November, but I might stand to be corrected on that. And that was a general update on what had been loosely circulated much earlier on. But we're being asked to consider and contemplate abstract at the moment, because there are no concrete proposals before us. And I think as a council, it would be prudent to wait until such times as that appeared before we made a corporate decision. And the decision, incidentally, would be, do we agree with it, this particular aspect or not? Because whether councillors are keen on the system as a whole or not, the Four Great Highways project was something that happened to be handy when there was a short-term funding opportunity to put forward. And this, whether you consider the money to be well spent or not is a different matter, but the money can't be spent on anything else. So it's a question of what's the best for the town from the money available. So at this stage, I think individually you may have ideas about what might be a good idea and might not be a good idea, but I don't think as a council we're any further forward in making an opinion to them other than we already have, and that is that in general we're in favour of it, on the basis that to be against it would be pointless and we'd just lose the money. Councillor may have other.
Thank you, Councillor. Scott, I see you've had your hand up. Are you going to make further comments, or?
I was just going to comment that I only had two great issues with it. There are sub issues, if you like, but essentially the platform's gone, which is a great idea. It's gone. That's one of the best things about it. The other thing is that for me is the lack of consultation. It seems very ad hoc for the town. It's a bit here and a bit there, and I think it should be a lot more sort of in depth. I mean, last time over Castle Street, only 90% of the people were not consulted at all. And most of the 10% were actually people who favoured the project. So I don't want to see a repetition of that. I want some quite a large amount of engagement, like as much of the town as possible.
I don't think I can agree with Councillor Felton's summation there, but there again, we all have our own opinions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Felton. I suppose for us it's just providing clarity as well as Devonshire County Council. I see Councillor Marshall has got a hand up as well.
Just to let people know, I did actually send an email to, is it Kimberly Walsh? It's Kimberly something, which obviously was my personal thoughts, but some of them were almost the preliminary things that I was concerned about, and they're the usual things that you'd expect me to say, but I just said to them, you know, what's the environmental impact? Have they done those kind of surveys and those kind of assessments before they start drawing up their plans? And considering the wider picture of if this is for visitors or for residents, because if it's all about attracting visitors and bringing more visitors, then we have to weigh that up with that impact of, particularly with access to the river, what happens at the Horseshoe Falls, that kind of thing. If people want to, I mean, I can copy it round to people if they want, but just to let you know that I did send one off. But I agree, we haven't got any plans specifically to comment on, but I was quite keen to just put those points in now before they start drawing up their plans and then realise, oh, this is going to be rubbish for, I don't know, the birds, or, you know, something like that, or we're going to have to take 10 trees down. Hopefully they'll be doing all that kind of assessment before they even get into the planning. But with tight timescales, you never know, do you?
Thank you very much. From my personal view is, I sat on, unfortunately, I got caught up with work, so I missed the council's presentation. But I actually went on to the business meeting, which was held previously, and then also as a resident of Llangollen. And as you'll find, half an hour doesn't go very long when all of a sudden somebody takes over a conversation. And in both of those sessions, each for half an hour each, and one person got talking and all of a sudden it's 30 minutes is gone and you didn't really have a say. So from my personal view, it probably wasn't the right way to go about things, trying to get a perspective and then trying to say, well, everyone talk at the same time, we've only got half an hour. You know what I mean? I don't feel it was constructive at all, because you had one person talk for 25 minutes and then, you know, we had an introduction of people, which took another 5 minutes up, and then all of a sudden, you know, that time was gone. So I think maybe either a longer term or longer meeting, or maybe some boots on the ground, better, more useful.
Could I sort of sum up that if I comment to them to say we welcome the opportunity afforded us to have that session. We considered again tonight, and whilst, you know, in principle, we've got no objection to the project going forward, we want to reserve any detailed comments until more specific plans go forward.
Scott's got his hand up.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Pat.
Yeah, pretty much what was getting said then's just been said. So yeah. I'll lower my hand.
Brilliant, thank you.
So a holding response, thanking them, but sort of no thanks until more detail. That's great. It's just, as I said, we you know, we did suggest they could contact us, so we did that, so that we can do a reply at this stage. I mean, clearly, the only other thing is whether we want to reiterate that we want, which doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. Mentioned this in passing with Councillor Haddy when he came in to talk about asset management. And I know Councillor Edwards is aware as well. We don't seem to get the leading time that we had previously in terms of consultation. We seem to be, as a council, considered at exactly the same time as the public, which has been of you know, concern to me, and I think a couple of other clerks. It goes back to a gentleman called David Davis, who unfortunately passed away. And since his demise at the county council, things have not been the same in terms of having a heads up on schemes. We used to have a much more interaction. So I think that's something, you know, I might address with the chief exec as well, so that we have a charter with them, and we should be not being treated as the same as everybody else and getting information as a press release, which tends to be the situation at the moment. But that won't go into this letter. But I just, you know, I think things, I don't know what's happened at the county, but the consultation has changed somewhat over recent years. And I think, you know, online has become a favourite option, but it's not necessarily the easiest to avoid. Okay, that's fine. So I'll do a short email to Kim at the head of the team, and that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Clark. I think that. Oh, sorry, Councillor Edwards got a hand raised.
Well,
Sorry, can I just come in there about this scheme? I'd just like to say that, you know, I asked them specifically last week, and they assured me that no designs have yet been agreed for this project and no work on the ground has begun. So that's, to me, you know, it's a blank canvas, basically. So it's there, you know, for everybody to input. The problem is the timeline, because as I said to you before, this has got to be delivered by March 24, and you know, I'm struggling to see, you know, at this stage how they're going to actually accomplish that. Bear in mind that we've done projects before as a town. We did it as a town council, as a town council. We know how long the Centenary Square took from start to finish. So I'm concerned and I'm worried, and I think that there must. I think they got when these meetings, these online meetings took place, and I agree with Councillor Morris's that observation that half an hour for each session was just ridiculous, really, because, you know, as you say, if you have, you know, one person dominating most of the chat, which I think occurred on one of them, it's difficult, isn't it, for everybody to get their view across. So, you know, from my point of view, it's really important that, you know, we get feedback from the town council as a public body, really, and, you know, we've had no other information other than what you've had. Absolutely nothing. We know as much as you do, basically, and I was quite surprised when they had this. We had this meeting last week because there was nothing really concrete to look at. But there again, the designers have only just come on board. So, you know, we're that early on in the process. And what worries me is that it's going to be rushed and we're going to end up with something that's not acceptable. So it's really important that we have a real good think about, you know, what exactly the people and the residents and the businesses in the town want out of this. Well, I just thought I'd mention that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Edwards. Obviously, we tried to keep the meeting as close as possible, but I felt Councillor Edwards might have a bit of better insight into what maybe is going on in the background. So that's the reason I allowed to speak. But thank you very much. Scott, Councillor Felton, I see you've got your hand up again.
Yeah, just a quick one on that one. In regard to what Councillor Edwards has just said, this issue of 30 minutes, to me, just I don't think anyone in the right mind would think 30 minutes was good enough in the first place before you even had a meeting of that magnitude. So to me, it just tells me that they're not really that keen on consultation. You might say it, but for me personally, they're not really interested. They want to keep this as close as we possibly can to the chest, as like similar to what's happened before.
Thank you very much, Councillor Felton. I think that's the end of our agenda this evening. Thank you all very much for joining us this evening and taking the time out to speak this evening. We do appreciate it, and we send our best wishes to those who aren't feeling too well this evening, and hope you get better soon.
Thank you very much for taking over, Councillor Morris.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.